Good afternoon, my name is Álex Vázquez, and in the lecture of today we are going to explain what is the price elasticity of the demand. Well, first of all, I will make a brief introduction of some concepts that we already know. Then I will explain deeper the concept of price elasticity of the demand. And finally, we will explain the determinants that make that a good has an elastic demand or an inelastic demand. So, let's start with the first point of this topic, which is the introduction. Well, first of all, let's recall what is the demand. Basically, the demand reflects the consumer's behavior. And what is reflecting is the negative relation that exists between prices and quantities. Reflects the negative relation between prices P and the quantity demanded that we denote by Q sub index D. From the demand, we derive what is called the law of the demand. The law of the demand, which basically says that an increase in prices causes a reduction in the quantity demanded. Conversely, a decrease in prices causes an increase in the quantity demanded. This is what we already know. Up to now, we have studied this problem from a qualitative point of view. We have studied the relation between variables. Now, we are going to go a step forward and analyze this problem from a quantitative point of view. And by doing so, we are going to study the price elasticity of the demand, which is the second point of this topic, the price elasticity of the demand. Well, first of all, what is the price elasticity of the demand? Basically, is a measure. The price elasticity of the demand is a measure. What does the price elasticity of the demand measure? Basically, measures the response of the quantity demanded of a good. Measures the response of the quantity demanded of a good when its price, P, changes. So the price elasticity of the demand measures the effect that a change in prices has in the quantity demanded of a good. Well, first of all, why studying this is useful? Well, now we are going to see why it is useful. The usefulness. And in particular, we will see that studying the price elasticity of the demand is very useful. First of all, because it allows us to quantify an effect. We can quantify the effect that a change in prices has in the quantity demanded. And second, because of that, we can evaluate policies. We can evaluate policies. Let's give an example of a policy. An example that is related to tobacco. Well, you know that the consumption of tobacco is bad for our health. Then the government could think in a measure to reduce the consumption of tobacco. So the government could have the objective of reducing the quantity demanded of tobacco. One measure that could apply to achieve this goal is to increase taxes. The government could increase taxes. By increasing taxes, what it's doing is increasing the price of tobacco. So, the price elasticity of the demand measures the effect that an increase in prices has in the quantity demanded of tobacco. This is what we are going to study, the quantitative effect. Well, to study this problem, we need to quantify this effect. So basically, we are going to see now how can we measure the price elasticity of the demand. And we use the following formula. This is the way that we denote price elasticity of the demand. E is elasticity, P is price, D is demand. The price elasticity of the demand is equal to the following ratio. In the numerator we have the percentual variation. the percentual variation of the quantity demanded of a good. Of the quantity demanded of a good. In the denominator, we have the percentual variation in prices. We have the percentual variation of prices. This is the formula. We could rewrite it in algebraic terms. In particular, what is the percentual variation of the quantity demanded? Is the increase or decrease in quantities, so new quantity minus old quantity, divided by the old quantity, and we denote it by that, Q subindex O, old quantity. This is the percentual variation of the quantity demanded. In a similar way, the percentual variation of prices is the increase or decrease in prices, so new price minus old price, divided by all prices. And we use this formula in absolute values. Well, why do we use absolute values? Basically, as I was saying before, because of the law of the demand, there exists a negative relation between prices and quantities. Because of that, the price elasticity of the demand is going to get a negative number. So we use absolute values just to make sure that the outcome is a positive number, which is easier to understand. So now that we know how to compute the price elasticity of the demand, let's see the different values and interpret them that the price elasticity of the demand can take. Well, we see, first of all, that the price elasticity of the demand could take a value smaller than 1. In this case, the demand is inelastic. We have an inelastic demand. So, in case that the price elasticity of the demand takes a value smaller than 1, the demand is inelastic. What is the meaning of that? Well, basically, the meaning of that is that a percentual variation of prices causes a smaller percentual variation in the quantity demanded. So, for instance, a percentual decrease of prices causes a smaller percentual increase in the quantity demanded. Let's give a numerical example to make sure that we understand the concept. So, suppose that prices reduced 1%. There is a 1% reduction of prices. Then it causes, since the demand is inelastic, that the quantity demanded is going to increase less than a 1%. For instance, 0.8, 0.7%, let's put, for instance, 0.7%. There is an increase of 0.7% of the quantity demanded. Now, we may see that the price elasticity of the demand could take extreme values, in particular a very, very small value equal to 0. Now, in case that the price elasticity of the demand takes a value equal to 0, we are facing a perfectly inelastic demand. A perfectly inelastic demand. What is the meaning of that? Basically, the meaning of that is that a percentual variation in prices doesn't have any effect on the quantity demanded. Let's see through a graphical example. So, in the vertical axis we have prices, in the horizontal axis we have the quantity demanded. The shape of an inelastic demand is a completely vertical line. Suppose that we are in point A of the demand. The associated price is PA, and the associated quantity is QA. Let's see what happens if we reduce the price from PA to PB. The associated point to B to PB is B. We see that the associated quantity to point B is exactly QA. So a reduction in prices doesn't have any effect on the quantity demanded when the demand is perfectly inelastic. It happens when the price elasticity of the demand is 0. Now let's see what happens when the price elasticity of the demand takes a value larger than 1. In this case, the demand is elastic. So, what is the meaning of an elastic demand? The meaning is the following. A percentual variation in prices causes a higher percentual variation in the quantity demanded. For instance, a percentual decrease in prices causes a higher percentual decrease in the quantity demanded. A percentual decrease in prices causes a higher percentual increase in the quantity demanded. So let's give again a numerical example. Suppose that there is a 1% reduction of prices. Prices reduced 1%. It causes that the quantity demanded is going to increase more than a 1%. The quantity demanded is going to increase more than a 1%, for instance, 2%, 3%. And this value, this 3%, which is an example, depends on the value of the price elasticity of the demand. Again, the price elasticity of the demand could take extreme values. In particular, could take value equal to infinite. In this case, we are dealing with a perfectly elastic demand. Well, what is the meaning of a perfectly elastic demand? Basically, the meaning is the following. A very small variation in prices causes a very high impact in the quantity demanded. Let's analyze this problem from the following graph. In the vertical axis we have prices. In the horizontal axis we have the quantity demanded. A perfectly elastic demand is a completely horizontal line. So a very, very small increase in prices causes that the quantity demanded goes to 0. If we increase the price just a little, the quantity demanded goes to 0. In case that we decrease prices just a little, the quantity demanded goes to infinite. The effect of a variation in prices is very huge in the quantity demanded. We are dealing with an extreme case, the case in which the price elasticity of the demand takes value infinite. Finally, let's see the last case that we need to study is the case in which the price elasticity of the demand takes value 1, and in this case we have a unitary elastic demand. Well, what is the meaning of that? The meaning of that is the following. A percentual variation in prices causes the same effect in the quantity demanded. For instance, if prices reduce 1%, there is a 1% reduction of prices, then the quantity demanded is going to increase exactly 1%. The quantity demanded increases exactly 1%. It happens when we have a unitary elastic demand. Well, these are all the values that the price elasticity of the demand can take. Now let's go to study the last part of this lecture, which is the determinants of the price elasticity of the demand. The determinants. So we're going to study the factors that make that a good has an elastic demand or an inelastic demand. So goods could have an inelastic demand or an elastic demand. First of all, the first determinant is the type of the good that we are considering. The type of the good. And we distinguish between two kinds of goods. First necessity goods and luxury goods. Well, first necessity goods have normally an elastic demand. For instance, suppose the case of water. We need water to live. So, an increase in prices won't reduce our consumption of water. It's something that it's necessary for us. We need it. On the other hand, we would have luxury goods. Luxury goods normally have a more elastic demand. It's something that we do not need to live. So a variation in prices causes a higher effect on consumption. It also depends on the substitutability of the good. So if a good has a very few amount of substitutes, or doesn't have substitutes, the demand tends to be more inelastic. Suppose again the case of water. Water is necessary and doesn't have substitutes. We need water to live. We need water to have showers. So a variation in the price of waters doesn't cause a variation in the quantity demanded. However, in case that we have substitutes, the demand is normally more elastic. Suppose the case of hamburgers. If the price of hamburgers increases, then we will reduce the consumption of hamburgers and increase the consumption of pizzas. It's a substitute. The third determinant is the time that we are considering, the time that we consider. If we consider short periods of time, we are dealing with an inelastic demand. Why? The reason is because in a short period of time, the consumer doesn't have time to adjust his or her demand when a price of a good changes. In contrast, when we have long periods of time, the consumer has more time to adapt his or her behavior. So, in these cases, normally, the demand is more elastic. It's more elastic the more time we have. Finally, we have the 10% of the income, that we devote to the consumption of that good. So, goods that we devote a small percent of our income normally have an inelastic demand. Why? It's just a little amount that we spend in this kind of goods. So a variation in prices doesn't cause that we adjust our behavior. On the other hand, if it's a high percentage of our income, it will affect our behavior as change in prices. It's something that we care about. So, these are the determinants of the demand. That's the end of the lecture. In the next lecture, I will explain the price elasticity of the demand for a linear demand, and also I will explain the relation between the price elasticity of the demand and the maximization of income. Well, thanks for your attention. Thank you very much.